Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the AEBR, sehr geehrte Mitglieder der Generalversammlung. It's my honor to moderate this important seminar on security and cooperation issues viewed through the lens of national border regions in the outposts of Europe. Every region faces unique challenges that requires collaborative solutions, and today we will delve into the complexities and opportunities that lay ahead. Security is something that we all think about. And looking at the present situation in Europe with war, with political instability and economical problems that still are not solved, everything is open. What will happen? What will our new society look like when we are on the other side? We have people with us here today that are specialists in their own fields. They work with cross-border relationships, and they all have opinions and ways of looking at security that I think can help us all to come forward in this quest. We cannot be naive when we look at security, but we'll always have to remember that our society is a free, liberal, and democratic society. We can't forget that. But I have the great pleasure now to welcome our panelists to the floor. And first of all, we have Marit Egholm Jacobsen, Secretary General, Barents Sea Corporation. Welcome, take your seat and find your speaker. Then we have Silvia Pleşca, BRCT, Iasi, from Romanian-Moldovan border. Welcome. We have Enric Millo, Secretariat General for External Affairs, and he is with us here today on a video link. So unfortunately he couldn't be here, but he has sent us a video link and we will get his opinions as well. Then we have Cezar Grozavu, BRCT, Suceava, and he represents the Romanian-Ukrainian border. Welcome. And finally, we have Sanda from Western Balkan borders. Take your seats and make yourselves comfortable. The panelists are prepared. They have their own presentations and they will talk about their own experiences. But we have tried to make some kind of framework that will help them, and that we will have a fixed agenda somehow that will help us to have a fixed topic. They will talk about how current challenges affect cooperation in their cross-border regions. They will also talk about how they are adapting to new and changing circumstances. And we also want their specific recommendations on what we have to take in account when we are planning next program periods and how we will get good solutions to our programming. But first of all, I have the pleasure to invite Ms. Jacobsen to take the floor and give her presentation.
Thank you. And how can I switch the slides? Hvordan kan jeg bytte slide? Gjorde den det? Kanskje den er der? Nei. Okay, we're experiencing some technical issues. we have a backup. Ja, men jeg har ikke sånn inngang på, den er ikke i min PC, den er i hans PC. Yeah. Great. Okay, so thank you for inviting me. I already had some really good cross-border discussions here with you guys during the dinner last night and also today. So I'm really, really happy to be here and to be able to give a presentation of our cross-border cooperation in the high north of Norway. I have to choose if I see you or if I see what I've written in my script. So I'm sorry if it looks a bit stupid, but I think a lot of people can relate to this. So I will start by just setting the stage and tell you where in the world we are and about our organization. We were established in 1993. And our goal is to support cross-border cooperation. Now it didn't want to work. Why doesn't it want to work? Okay. So we are working with cross-border cooperation support in the High North. And mostly for 30 years, we have been working with Norwegian-Russian cooperation. We are also a resource and competence center for cross-border cooperation in our region, and we are really happy to be here with so many other experts on this topic. We are owned by the three northernmost counties in Norway, which is Nordland, Troms, and Finnmark. But our funding comes mainly from the government, from the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, as Ms. Prestbakmo was representing earlier, I think. We have, for 30 years until this year, we have been mainly funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as we had Russia as our main partner. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the results after 30 years of cooperation with Russia and where do we go from here. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we navigate in the post-24th of February 2022 situation, because it's very much, our timeline is very much before and after February 24th of 2022, when Putin started his aggressive war against Ukraine. It also sent shockwaves through our small communities, both social and economic. So I will show you just to make sure that we are on the same map here. Oh, that was a bit too... So this is the Barents region. It's a bit of a political construct initiated by our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Thorvald Stoltenberg, the father of Jens Stoltenberg, whom we all know. And maybe there is this pointer here. Can I do like this? Okay, but you see here on the top of the map, almost in the sea, there is this area between Murmansk region and Lapland in Finland. This is the municipality that I live in and where our office is. So we have three neighboring municipalities. One is in Norway, one is in Finland, and one is in Russia. So very much cross-border region. The background of the Barents region was to exchange the Cold War skepticism and to try and develop normal relations across the borders in the High North with Russia. As you can see, it's 4 countries, Norway, Russia, Finland, and Sweden, about 5 million people, most of them in Russia, and 3 indigenous peoples, whereas one of them live in all of the 4 countries, namely the Sami people, and quite a large area. So I mentioned this Kirkenes Declaration from 1993 is the background of our institution, And as you see here, it was signed in Kirkenes in '93 by all the 4 Barents countries, but also by EU and Denmark and other stakeholders. And as you see, the aim is to replace the confrontation and division of the past. And it feels a bit strange to stand here today and say these things because Putin's war and his regime has absolutely reintroduced the confrontation and division, maybe even worse than from the past. In our glory days, we also had offices in Russia, in Murmansk, Arkhangelsk, and Naryan-Mar. So we had colleagues, Russian colleagues working there also to promote projects with the Norwegian-Russian partners. And I also would like to mention that exactly today and tomorrow we are marking the 80th anniversary of the Red Army liberation of Eastern Finnmark in 1944, which was half a year before the rest of the country was liberated. And that is a very important backdrop for the willingness to cooperate with Russia in our region. The Second World War was really devastating. I think in Kirkenes, most of the houses were bombed, and it was one of the cities that during the Second World War was most bombed in Europe. I think Malta had more days with bombing than Kirkenes. So I often say that the people in Finnmark were grateful to the Russians for 2 things, or the Soviet army, that they came and that they left again. But with there had been a lot of small unorganized cooperations from the 50s between Norway and Russia within sports and culture, for instance. But now with the Kirkenes Declaration, the real work could begin. And we have over the years had like approximately 25 million Norwegian kroners to give to good projects through applications from the partners. Not only was our institution established in '93, but also a Norwegian consulate in Murmansk. It's about 3.5-hour drive from Kirkenes, and a Russian consulate in Kirkenes, which was closed just last week. The Norwegian consulate in Murmansk was closed a year ago, and I can mention also that I started to study Russian back in high school. And I used to work 4 years at the Norwegian consulate in Murmansk as a head of visa section. So I've been working a lot with immigration as well before I started in the Norwegian Barents Secretariat in 2017. In 2012, the local border traffic permit was introduced, which allowed border citizens to travel across the border to their neighboring cities. It's about, from Kirkenes, it's about 50 kilometers to Nikel in Russia, and it's about 50 kilometers to Nätämö in Finland. So it's our close neighborhood. In the first panel today, I also noticed the term intercultural competency, which I think has been developed very much through our projects through the years. I'm forgetting that I have a presentation here also for you to rest your eyes on. And this button is a bit... we have been supporting projects within almost every field of society. And when I started working in the Barents Secretariat, my task was to work with civil society and environmental projects and higher education projects. We have seen a lot of university cooperation with Russia through the years, but also ordinary, like people-to-people coming together, learning each other's culture, seeing how we do it here and there, and developing intercultural competency. Also, how do I behave when I meet people who don't live exactly like me? We have supported civil society projects like the top photo from the big Barents Pride festival that is going on in Kirkenes, and we are still introducing or inviting Russian partners to that. But for almost all other projects, the Russian aspect is now gone. We have no cooperation with public Russian institutions, but we have a very small opening now to also still have cooperation with independent Russian actors, which also before the war was very difficult because of all of the laws targeting people who were, well, not necessarily even doing politics, but who were actively engaged in something that Mr. Putin did not like. So it has been a struggle throughout the years with more and more laws, making it to a certain extent also difficult and dangerous for the Russian people who could be relevant to be in our projects. When I was preparing for this presentation, I found one of my old manuscripts, a presentation I held in 2020, and this is what I said back in 2020. 30 years ago, people looked at Russia with a strong sense of suspicion. Today, parents in Kirkenes easily send their children off to Zapolyarny in Russia for a weekend to take part in a local ice hockey tournament. Today, Russian parents send their children to Tana in Norway to compete in wrestling with other Barents kids. And these kids are the key to building trust, peace, and stability in the Barents region. So it feels... I've been thinking a lot, does it feel like a wasted time? And I want to say that I think that the idea of cross-border cooperation was really valued on both sides of the border, on all political levels. We supported a lot of cooperation between municipalities, counties, and also the leaders of the governments met in Kirkenes. The last time it was an anniversary for the liberation of East Finnmark, Mr. Lavrov was present in Kirkenes together with His Majesty the King, for instance. So these structures that we have, this center of cooperation, also creates a hub for speaking together on all levels. Yeah, and with this quote from my old speech, over just one night, Russia tore down the cooperation that had been developed for more than 30 years. Suspicion is very much back. It's been a lot in the news that in Kirkenes everyone can be a spy for Russia or for Norway. We had a situation with a guy from Kirkenes who was arrested in Russia and spent 2 years in prison there. And all world media came to Kirkenes to have a look at this spy city. And I must admit that I don't feel this very much in my private life. And having lived in Russia also 5 years, I feel like I should be a target. But yeah, maybe I have other... I don't know, maybe they just don't like me, which is fine. But I think the key aspect of upholding cross-border cooperation is the development of trust between the participants, like we managed through 30 years. And I want to teach you a Norwegian word, which I like very much. And the Norwegian word for trust is tillit. Can you say that? Tillit, very well. And the cool thing about that word, it's a palindrome, so you can read it backwards and it will still be the same. And it shows that tillit, trust, goes both ways. You cannot manage anything without tillit, trust, as the main component. So in some settings, you have to sort of give a little, and then you will, through communication, through getting to know the other participants, you will be able to develop this trust if there is ground for it. And I want to say that through a lot of our projects, we did achieve that in a lot of ways, actually. And today the discussion is mostly about how little we can trust Russians, and I think also that this serves Putin's strategy very well to isolate their population. So were we naive? Maybe. I don't actually think so. I think we had something really good going on, and our goal was never to sort of import democracy to Russia. That is a job they have to do, but we had a lot of good partners who were very much actively involved in that. But it's very difficult in a very hierarchy with a very strong president who has other ambitions than peaceful cooperation with neighbor states. I didn't mention it, but also speaking of this intercultural competency, when this local traffic permit was introduced in 2012, we had a lot of people now. Russia was sort of open to ordinary Norwegians to just go there for a short day trip, because before it was usually very difficult. You got a visa and it was a one-entry visa, but now you got this card valid for 3 years and you could just pop over after work one day. And it was like in the golden days, it was extremely funny. It was like Russian families coming to Kirkenes using the really nice pool we have there, and we traveled to Nikel because it was the closest place we could get a decent sushi. It was very much, and everybody agreed that it was contributing to making those really, really small cities, Kirkenes and Nikel, more interesting places to live. So now when Russia is cut off, Kirkenes, we used to be the hub of the Barents region, and now we're just like the appendix of far north of Europe. Also after the war, it's a very mixed population. We have a lot of people who have Russian background, and it also, of course, does something with the mutual trust in our own local community. Some people claim very much that they are against the war and Putin's regime, and other people are perhaps more silent. It creates this, should I go around and suspect that my neighbor is a pro-Putin person? How do this impacts also our community? Also in the way that, of course, we don't have so many Russians coming shopping. There are jobs lost in the fisheries and other sectors, and so on and so on. And this is just a picture from some activists, Russian activists, who this is just across the entrance to the Russian consulate in Kirkenes. It's a Navalny memorial. And all the demonstrations in Kirkenes against the war in Ukraine has been held outside of the entrance to the Russian consulate. So, yay, new opportunities. I don't have so much time left, I think a couple of minutes, so I will do very little time.
Please go.
So, but yeah, we have now got a new mandate from the ministry, as I mentioned before, and it is much more focused towards the northwestern part of Europe. So now we can also fund projects which does not have any Russian element, but has Sweden, Finland, but also Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and to a certain extent Northern America, the Arctic parts of Northern America and Canada. And we have a very also clear mandate that we have to assess every application for support, that it has to somehow strengthen local communities in the High North. So cross-border cooperation to strengthen local communities. Yeah, I think I've been talking too much. I also just want to mention that we have been involved in a lot of EEA grants in other border regions in Europe, among them Slovakia and Ukraine border, and also we are partner in the program now with Bulgaria. And we have been to a lot of conferences in the Carpathian region, so we very much enjoy coming here. I will not go through this, but here is just like some pictures from a lovely trip we had to Slovakia and the Ukrainian border in, I think it was in 2023. Yeah, so I think I've been talking a lot, and I will stop there. Yeah.
You have been talking a lot, and you have been talking good.
Thank you. I can talk for hours.
Thank you. Thank you. We're a little bit over time schedule, so I apologize for that. You can beat me up after the session. But we will continue, and next to take the floor is Silvia Pleşca. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Silvia Pleșca. I am coming from Romania, more exactly from Iași. It's in the northeast side of Romania, and particularly our organization works in cross-border cooperation for more than 20 years now. We are covering the entire border with the Republic of Moldova, more exactly the 5 counties from the border side with Moldova in Romania and the entire territory in Moldova. Our field of activity involves more specifically that we are assuring the joint secretariats for the cross-border cooperation programs with Republic of Moldova. Now, in the present time, we are managing the Interreg Next in Romania, Republic of Moldova. But in the previous years, we worked on FARE CBC, ENPI, the program that involved also Ukraine. And after that, the ENI CBC 2014-2020. So, as you all know, the Romania-Moldova border region plays a crucial role in the European security. It is a strategic frontier between the European Union and the Eastern Europe. Security measures here are shaped by several key factors, including border control, cross-border cooperation, and a lot of efforts to combat organized crime and smuggling, because this is really a problem in that area. For today, I would like to point out some particularities regarding border security in our region. So we have firstly the border infrastructure and management. Romania, as an EU member state, applies all the Schengen-related security standards, although we are not still a full member in the Schengen area. This involves still robust control system to monitor the movement of goods and of people, and also in investing in all kinds of modern surveillance technologies. The further cross-border cooperation between Romania and Moldova that have established several initiatives to enhance regional security through cooperative efforts often backed up by the EU. As I started my presentation, we are now managing the Interreg program, but we had a lot of initiatives that focused on the strengthening of the border management, on fostering the law enforcement collaboration, and on sharing intelligence on criminal activities. We have a lot of projects and a lot of large infrastructure projects between the authorities from Romania and the authorities from Republic of Moldova on exactly this particular matter. The cross-border points, which are very crowded, and we invested a lot in this modernization of these cross-border points. In combating the organized crime, due to its geographical position, the border region is a sensitive area for illegal activities, as I said before, including still human trafficking, drug smuggling, and contraband. But the authorities from both the countries, Romania and Republic of Moldova, cooperate to diminish these criminal networks and to ensure that security forces are well trained and equipped to address these threats. This is sad, but still a true matter that we are facing in that regions. So many of our projects focus on these jointly exercises and common strategies to try and combat this organized crime that we are facing in the border region between Romania and Republic of Moldova. Next, the EU and the NATO involvement. Romania's position as an EU and NATO member also brings additional resources and international collaboration to enhance the security of the border. So a lot of joint exercises and programs with a lot of EU agencies like Frontex, which was mentioned before, aim to prevent these external threats from destabilizing the region. So we have a lot of projects also, not through Frontex, but other EU agencies that come in the regions and train the people in this matter of security. And geopolitical sensitiveness, because we are located where we are, and the proximity of Romania with Moldova and Ukraine, especially in the context of the ongoing conflicts, adds complexity to the security landscape of the region. Romania has reinforced its border controls, all the time was prepared for potential refugees, and we had refugees during the beginning of the war, and heightened the vigilance to protect against any spillover effects from the regional instability. These efforts collectively aim to ensure the stability, to foster the cooperation, and protect the external borders of the European Union, and contributing to broader regional security. This is what I've noted, what I've marked today, these points for the presentation. But what I want to say is that I'm working for like 11 years now in cross-border cooperation, and what I'm seeing in the present time is that the level of trust between our two countries is high. The projects are alive, and the results impact the citizens' lives in a good way, especially, and this is translated in the numbers of project proposals that we receive. For example, this year we received a number of 277 project proposals for the Interreg Next program. So the competition is really high. The needs are, we cannot tackle all of the needs, but we are still trying through the measures that our programs are preparing. Also, for the enforcement of the cohesion policy, our program will launch another call of proposals, which will focus mainly on the Interreg specific objective 1, which means a better governance. So we will have only projects that will involve jointly exercise experiences and improvement of the governments in both countries. So thank you. I did not bring a PowerPoint presentation, but hopefully you will receive me next year, and I will bring some nice pictures from our border area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Silvia. It was an interesting presentation. We will continue, and next to hit the floor is our video presentation, and it's a video presentation from Enrico Millo. He is the Secretary General for External Affairs in the regional government of Andalucía. And if the technician can start the technique, so will we see look at the video.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to greet all the participants of this AEBR General Assembly and the organizers who have found a wonderful place in Norway, Trysil, which unfortunately for scheduled reasons I cannot be today with all of you. Let me also say hello to my colleagues in this session on cooperation and security in practice. It would have been a pleasure to be able to join you and to share with you the interesting debate that is playing on issues that affect in the border regions of Europe. These are issues that AEBR always selects with great skills. But on behalf of Andalucía and its President, I thank you for your work very much. Also, on behalf of the President of the Andalucía Regional Government, I would like to inform you that on 4th and 5th November, I will be representing AEBR at the 15th General Assembly of ARLEM, Euro-Mediterranean Region and Local Assembly, to be held in Amman, Jordan, where we will have the opportunity to discuss and share views of very relevant issues in the Mediterranean area. The President of the European Community of the Regions, Mr. Vasco Alves Cordeiro, will be present at the next General Assembly in Amman. We will analyze the territorial perspectives for the Euro-Mediterranean strategic agenda in the current geopolitical context that presents so many uncertain threats, but also challenges with the situation on the Middle East. And we will do so in the presence of two important personalities, the Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean and the European Union's Special Envoy for the Mediterranean also. We will continue to discuss two draft reports on the transition to sustainable energy in the Mediterranean and on intercultural dialogue, with a special mention of the Mediterranean capitals of culture and dialogue. Let me just mention in connection with this that, as you may know, for Andalucía, relations between European regions and our North African neighbors are of vital importance. In this sense, we work intensively for understanding and dialogue with the three cultures of the Mediterranean Foundation. Andalucía also implement relevant initiatives such as the Mediterranean Awards, the second edition of which will take place in 2025 with the participation of more than 30 countries, and you all are invited. Finally, water and water resilience in the Mediterranean will be the closing subject of the thematic sessions in the General Assembly of Ireland. This is an issue of particular importance for the Mediterranean regions and tackle the climate change. Returning to the Association of European Border Regions, we have many issues to work on, and we must go hand in hand at time when we have to face big challenges. One of them is definitely migration, a daily reality in the European Union which we must face by combining solidarity and responsibility. We are all border regions, but some of us are also external border regions of the European Union. For this reason, we need a specific status to enable us to meet the challenges we face. That is why we have proposed in the Committee of the Regions the recognition such external border regions. The basis for this recognition is the impact of migration follows and measures to implement freedom, security and justice policies, and the specific needs of these regions in the corresponding financial instruments. In recent statements, the President of Andalucía, Juanma Moreno, has called to the Spanish government and the European authorities to hold a debate leaving populism apart in order to organize migration rationally. We must work with common sense to put order in a situation that is difficult to address with the current resources of municipalities and regions without radical positions, and by being thought of the masses that traffic in people, something that can only be achieved with the help of the European Union. Dear colleagues, we will continue to work on these and other issues that concern us, and I wish you a productive conference. I look forward to seeing you at the next General Assembly, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much from Andalucía. I felt a little bit like it could be a relative of Martin. We will continue, and next to hit the floor we have Mr. Cezar Grozavu from BRCT Suceava. You are welcome to take the floor.
Thank you. Hello everybody, it's a real pleasure to be today present here in such a northern peaceful place. Indeed, we saw different borders and border situation, and we must admit that the situation nowadays in North is not at all like it in the southeast of Europe, where we are working it. As my colleague Silvia mentioned, we are in charge of implementing European cross-border project between Romania and Ukraine. As a matter of fact, the longest external border of EU with Ukraine is the Romanian-Ukrainian border, more than 60 kilometers, and imagine that till the war starts were open only 3 cross-border points. That tells much in terms of connectivity, even more in terms of bilateral exchanges, in terms of trust, in terms of different intervention between our countries. Why? Because of the second border and the history. Nowadays, in contradiction with the northern situation like I saw in Nordic states like Norway or Finland, in the southeast, we are facing a new situation, and it's a paradox of the history that we are facing a new challenge, and that means trust, that means cooperation, and the war proved or offered us the chance to show the solidarity in terms of EU values. Our border face many challenges, like like the entire European society. Imagine, yes, how to manage a bilateral project when the COVID starts. But imagine we successfully digitalize both sides of the countries and all our partners. After that, the war. We were in Odessa a few weeks before the war starts. And after that, we are thinking what happens if we're going to have a Russian border, which can generate the closure of the entire program, what our Finnish partners, unfortunately, have to do with their offices. So each challenge, we took it as it is and generate added value. As my colleague Silvia from Moldova border, we have the same priorities, but indeed it's more difficult due to the geographical and not sufficient financial resources. Even so, in latest period, we opened new two border cross points, and imagine that in the Carpathians also as a solidarity symbol was only in Maramureș County, a bridge, wooden bridge, yeah, that was only connectivity between Romania and Ukraine in Maramureș County. Nowadays, a new European-founded bridge is built, and we hope next year to be open. I must want to say hello to Maramureș representative or Ukrainian representative, who are one of our best beneficiary of EU funds, and they successfully show that despite of the condition, they get results. What else? We show solidarity. Imagine that Poland and Romania receive the biggest number of refugees, more than 2 million across Romania, more than 80,000 stay in Romania, but we still assist them. We are more open to implement nowadays a new call of proposal under the next priorities, and we hope the borders will be more and more open and to have a new events, good news instead of bad news. Thank you for inviting me, and all the best.
Thank you very much. And now for our final panelist, Sanda Šimić. The floor is yours.
Sit or go. Okay.
Please.
Don't have a problem with visibility. I was playing basketball. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I come from Serbia. We are managing authority for 3 programs between Western Balkan countries. It's Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Serbia, North Macedonia. Also, we are participating in 9 Interreg programs, cross-border cooperation with Croatia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, transnational programs for Danube and Adriatic-Ionian regions. And from this financial perspective, we are very happy that we are also, no we don't, and we are also participating from this financial perspective in the programs of Interreg Europe and URBACT. In ESPON, Western Balkans are just observers at the moment, so we hope that soon we will also be participating. It's a privilege to speak after everybody, because I can pick up the best from everybody that have said. And thank you very much, Marit, for the word Tilit. I will remember it. It's so beautiful and so illustrative. I'm working within the Cooperation Forever, Western Balkans. Started with Interreg programs from 2003 from Thessaloniki summit, where European Union have confirmed perspective of Western Balkan countries as candidate countries for European Union. And the programs back then, we had programs with Romania. Also, we have BRCT, it is in Timișoara. Our joint secretariat. Back then, it was FARE cards program. It was 2003, 2004. It was a difficult thing to implement because it was unnatural, 2 different programs. It was not one instrument. But then we started with the instrument for pre-accession assistance. And now we are living the 3rd generation of instrument for pre-accession assistance. And it is really a lot to think about and a lot to learn. What I always like to remember was the word of one beneficiary of program Bulgaria-Serbia from 2004-05. We had one focus group, and he said he was living in the border area, and he said that Interreg programs before he was participating in Interreg programs, EU accession and EU was something that he did not understand. It was too far away, too political, too abstract. He didn't understand what it is all about. When he started to implement a project within an Interreg program, then he realized how beautiful, how tangible it is. He understood the values, and he really took them as his own, and he really took them as his mission, in the future to promote and to implement. So practically, our border areas have a bigger touch, bigger contact with what EU is really than our central areas because of Interreg programs. So Interreg programs are the best way to promote EU values and EU integrations. And actually, I was speaking in Interreg annual event in Vienna a couple of months ago, and somebody asked the question. They thought that it would be provocative, and they said, how we think in Interreg, we are cooperating, and how we are coping with this. If we are so good, how there is a lot of radicalism and nationalism all around the world, and right-wing parties, etc., etc. It's something that we don't have in Interreg. It's something that we don't have here, and whoever starts to do Interreg and starts to do the cooperation, even if he does have that virus, he gets cured very, very easily. It doesn't exist. And when my son was very, very small, I cooked asparagus. It was his first time, and he said, "I'm not eating that." I said, "Why?" And he said, "I have never eaten that." And I said, "So, you try, and then say if you like it or not." It's like I hate, I don't know, Norwegian people. Have you met some? Have you met one ever? No. So the best way actually to fight prejudices and to fight every negative type of borders in people's minds is actually through cooperation and through putting people in contact with other people. Mr. Lambert said one wonderful thing is that the worst type of insecurity is the insecurity that people have in their own minds. And you can only overcome that through the cooperation. And I would just regarding security, we in the Western Balkans are on the outside border of the EU, but actually we are all surrounded by EU countries, EU member states. So it's a totally different situation than in a case of colleagues from Romania that are working on the borders with Moldova and Ukraine. However, we have a lot of projects that are increasing permeability of the borders. We open new border crossings with Hungary, also with Romania. We are financing a lot of cooperation projects between Ministry of the Interior to fight together against natural disasters, for example, because these are our main problems. Just one more thing to tackle that really provoked me from the previous discussion: cohesion policy. Interreg programs are the best ways. Through Interreg programs, the citizens and institutions who were in the Western Balkans implementing projects learned more about cohesion policy and EU values than the ones who were implementing pure IPA, and let alone national funds or budgets or something like that. This capacity that was built throughout the years is really a jewel within all our countries, and that is something that will bring us all together and all in the one, let's say, direction. The programs between non-member states, between Western Balkan countries, are not Interreg programs. Allocation for program, for example, Serbia-Montenegro is 8 million euros, and allocation of 7 years, 8 million euros. And allocation between Romania and Serbia is 74 million euros. So programs that alone creates a lot of, you can imagine, why the citizen of border region with Bosnia or the border region of Bosnia with Serbia is I don't know, less worthy of assistance or help, or, it creates a lot of imbalance, but also it creates an imbalance in capacities, because programs that we implement between non-member states are not cohesion policy. They are far away from cohesion policy. So I would like to ask you all who are politicians and who have an influence, in the future, to fight really for Interreg programs, to fight that Interreg programs and programs that will be implemented in non-member states look more like cohesion policy, because actually this is the way to promote EU values. That's the best way, actually, and to fight for also bigger allocation and more similarity for the programs between Western Balkan countries that are now far away from what they should be and from what you all are implementing. So thank you again for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share our experience, and I would like to congratulate on the General Assembly and this this wonderful event that I have seen. So thank you.
Thank you. And this sums up the individual speeches of our panelists, and we will now move further to a general discussion. So I ask that you open up the computer screen again, and people can place their questions. And I am quite sure that we have questions in this assembly. What my first reflection that I actually put together listening to all of you is that the border regions, they are more dramatic now than for a long time. Looking back in history, we weren't thinking about things like this, but you're really fighting on the front lines of European democracy and European values. And I think it's very important to remember that it's not only the border regions that has this responsibility, it's the national states and the EU have to take responsibility to make sure that the border regions actually can develop resilience and to do their job to keep our borders safe and peaceful. We all are winners in that game. But now we have some really interesting questions here. And I would perhaps start with the first one from the top. From your perspective, what is the most important aspect of cross-border cooperation and security that should be prioritized? And perhaps Cezar would like to. You had great input from your experiences. What should be first in our priorities?
From our point of view, I said, Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, it's very important that they open the chapter of negotiation to European Union. So that means they have a path, they have a direction, and they nowadays put their priorities into EU agenda. So that means a long process of integration. We know, like Romania, like Eastern country, how long it means. Serbia, it's another study case, very interesting, but it's a different topic. So for sure, we increase cooperation mainly in terms of connectivity, in terms of food security, because of the bottlenecks into the Odessa and the south part of the Europe due to the war in the Black Sea.
Silvia, how would you open up the same kind of question? Would you follow Cezar's thoughts, or do you have other?
I was thinking now that Cezar was speaking about this program. I participated like 2 months ago in Romania at an event that involved not particularly the type of organizations with whom I work with. So we work with public organizations. They were from the private sector. And they were a lot of transporters that are crossing the border points between Romania and Moldova, and they have huge problems now because they are very crowded, also with the Ukrainian traders. So I think it's very important to invest in these crossing points, in these land crossing points that we have between our countries, and in order to ensure the security of the Czechs to do there and to involve in specialized equipment and to try and to modernize these crossing points in order to reduce the time spent there, because there were people that were staying there for like over a week. So imagine what this does to the economy and to the businesses that the stakeholders have in the region. So maybe this is what I was thinking exactly at this particular moment.
Thank you, very interesting. Then we have a direct question to Sanda on the topic of Interreg as a cure. How do we involve the people really in need of the cure? People involved are often the people who don't need a cure.
Well, first of all, I disagree. Actually, also, you know, what you see is a cured people, you know, and then you think that people did not need the cure, but you haven't met them before, before the cure was, before the medicine was given to them. But I understand this question as how we reach a bigger number of people in the border areas, and this is only by relaxing procedures, which I expect, you know, even in this financial perspective, the procedures are more relaxed. You have to know that that people are implementing projects in English language. How many people do speak English language in remote border areas, you know, of Romania, of Bulgaria and Serbia, and let alone of Croatia and Serbia, which we have the same language practically, and they have to implement projects in English. So by adapting the procedures and putting them on more realistic level, I think that our programs will reach even more people or bigger number of population in the border area.
English is very much the lingua franca of today, but in the border regions you actually have different kinds of communication with each other.
Exactly.
Here is a very simple question that I will pass on to Marit. What would be the worst scenario for border regions?
I'm not sure, but I think perhaps the worst scenario. I think now, when we worked with Russia, it was a quite different story, because it was one of the borders in Europe with biggest socio-economic differences on each side, and even some of your rights as a human being were extremely different. If you were, for instance, a gay person and crossing the border from Norway to Russia, your right as a human being would be completely different. And now this border is more or less, it's sort of a wall there. It's like we don't work so much with them anymore. And for us now, the border regions we are working with is northern Finland and northern Sweden. And as more people have mentioned also, they have become members of NATO. And I have the impression that they're all very, very eager to and have already started with engaging together in the NATO work. I think the worst scenario for us would be that the border to Finland also would close. Then we would definitely just be an appendix in nowhere in the top. But I have very positive and optimistic views on the future cooperation in our new grant scheme as well, and in the region without Russia. So I want to be positive, and at the moment I cannot see any worse scenarios than the one that we already are living in with Russia as an aggressor state.
Well, you opened up a little bit around security politics and NATO, so I think it's quite natural that you continue with the next question about Svalbard and Norway's position post the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And Svalbard it's a really hot spot, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe our friend from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would be more relevant to answer this. But I think Norway's position on Svalbard is quite clear, and there are some provocative measures from the Russian side. But I think like the agreement that about Svalbard, I think they are clear enough. But the Russians are always trying to push a bit further to maybe get a reaction or make us do something stupid. So I think it's really important also to keep a clear head and try to think pragmatically, because we know the way they are working, and I think it's important to just try and foresee the possible reactions that might come from that side. But I think Svalbard is very clear by the Norwegian government and has been.
Silvia opened up a bit around drug trade, trafficking, and criminality like that. And we have a question here about how to combine open borders and still maintain law enforcement. Are these things that you are thinking about in your region?
At least from the point of view of the cooperation programs between the two countries, we are still working on this matter. So a lot of organizations from Romania and public authorities from Romania and both the Republic of Moldova are investing in this jointly and common exercises and equipment and guides and everything in order to educate the population and to maintain the level of trust in these authorities. So it's an ongoing matter and situation, but as I previously said, we are trying through the priorities that we are developing in the region to try to enhance more and more people in this matter in order to maintain the law enforcement, but still to have these open borders, which is still not possible between Romania and Republic of Moldova. We have the border there, but at least we are investing a lot in these common and jointly exercises. And for example, us as Romanian citizens, we can pass through Republic of Moldova only with the ID, and we are not using the passport no more. So this was like happening since, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years now. So this is a step forward for the cooperation.
We have challenging times indeed, and I will turn now to Sanda with the next question. How do you think that we can enhance international cooperation in challenging times? And I think these both questions are quite nearly related.
Well, yes. I mean, exactly these kinds of instruments, as interim programs, are the ones that will enhance international cooperation, because people through transnational programs are not only cooperating with neighbor, just across the border. It is more challenging to have a joint project with somebody that is far away from I don't know, Germany, that is not in direct border. And in respect to that, really, you create a kind of critical mass of people that will influence politicians and make the times less challenging, let's say. That's the only thing we can do. Actually, we cannot influence the higher politics. The things are moving, and we just can hope, that when European Union was created, it was created after the world wars, and with the basic goal not to have wars anymore. But as we can see, wars are happening, and we just have to work harder to preserve the peace that we have right now, within European Union at least.
Marit has asked for the word. Go ahead.
Yeah, could I just add to this question? Because I think it's also important that we find something to cooperate about, that we don't have international cooperation just because it's nice to meet and have some drinks, but that we actually have something in common in the project. And I just wanted to mention a project we were just invited to participate in, which is a Polish region, which is really far from us, but they wanted to gather all of the border regions that have a border with Russia. So from Poland and all through the Baltic states and Finland and also our region. And they gave this presentation about how the war had infected their region, being close to Kaliningrad, or neighboring to Kaliningrad. And when they gave this presentation, I saw that we could actually just switch the name of that region with our own region, because the challenges are exactly the same. So we can meet, we can find good practices, find out how they are doing it, can we implement what they are doing, and we can also have some more unity. And when we give maybe recommendations to governments or other parties, we will stand together and have a common approach to it. So I think it's really important to find some topics, and also has been mentioned earlier today, some values. Why are we cooperating together? What is the purpose, and what do we want to achieve?
I feel that the last question here is very organizational. How can we develop our work in AEBR by strengthening our organization with more members? And perhaps I think this is questions actually that Martin or someone else perhaps very well could answer, but I will give the question to Cezar and see if, do you have any thoughts about this? More members in the AEBR, how could we be stronger? How could we do more? Or how could we be better?
From my perspective, common goal raise a number of interested people. So that topics, as already mentioned, that a region from Poland ask your partnership. It's an example how we can put together different interests under such generous umbrella as this organization it is, and can provide this open space of sharing experience, sharing best practice, sharing worst scenario. Why not? Also, it's a matter of offering solution, and why not psychological support in border region, because from time to time look how risky some borders can become. So yeah, common goals with and the proper presentation and marketing. Let's be honest, we need to adequate information measuring in order to increase the number.
And Marit, do you have faith?
I refuse to lose my faith in people as people. I think when people come together, great things happen. I believe that also of a lot of the Russian people. I know they have been living through, we often talk about Putin, but we have to remember, I tend to think of him as just like the prolonged Soviet Union. They've been living under harsh leadership they had a small break maybe in the 90s, early 2000s, but they have for 100 years been living under really hard leadership. And then, of course, you get the world that when you vote for the leaders and so on. But I mean, I live in a small town with about 10% of people who live there have Russian background, either parents or themselves are first generation. And I cannot walk the street in my own city and feel that every person is suspicious. I have to, like you said, talk to them, meet them, find out who are they, what are their values. If their values and mine are compatible, then we can be great friends, even if they are Russian or Polish or Pakistani or whatever. I don't care. So no, I refuse to lose faith, and there will come a day when Putin dies. I don't think anything will happen before he actually dies, but there will come a day, and we have to think about how can we try and help those Russians who wanted to integrate their country in world cooperation and not in aggression and instability. So yeah, I cannot say anything that I refuse to lose faith in humankind.
The time is up. I'm sure that you can grab the panelists here afterwards and have discussions with them. I'm sure that you're all to our disposal. And we will end it here. And I hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I have, and that nobody feels that we have been on a wrong track. We have talked about very important questions here this afternoon. But this is the end of this session, and now I hope that you can enjoy a cup of coffee on the outside of the door, and then we will have an official opening ceremony of the annual conference, and I hope that you all can join us then. So please, thank you.